My name is Danny Chan. I am the LA Metro Region Director, and I began in this new role on January of 2020. My primary responsibility is to resource and to nurture pastors in the LA Metro region, to develop a strategic plan for ministry throughout the region, and then to meet with pastors regularly, to support them in ministry, to provide resources for ministry, and to develop a continuing education and leadership development program where we get to meet every other month to continue to discuss discipleship, evangelism, member development, to provide resources for pastors in a strategic way so that we can partner together to lift up Jesus in our diverse communities. Our primary role, I would say, is to the selection and the placement of pastors. So I work very closely with church boards, sometimes multiple times over a course of sometimes even months, to be able to identify the needs of the local church and the community, and then to work closely with the pastor to help him or her to develop and implement their vision for ministry. We have an amazing team of pastors who are infinitely qualified and so committed to ministry, and so seeing them flourish and develop and even face challenges, to be able to support them as they do that is one of the most rewarding things in ministry. In particular, when I first began this role, it was 2.5 months before the pandemic. So I started in January of 2020, and of course, you know what happened in March. So one of the challenges was in the new role to be able to develop relationships, to get to know the churches was very difficult because we were in lockdown. It provided a need for me to be interim pastor at a couple of different churches for several months. And so it's only been in the last year or two that we've been able to get back on track with that. But in the last few months, in the last year or two, it's been kicking back up, and it's been great to get out to the different churches and to be able to support the local church in the best way that we can. I've seen some churches adapt to new ways of doing things. I've seen pastors just rise up to the challenge and implement new ways of doing ministry, and that resilience and that creativity and that commitment to ministry really bodes well for the future of our churches here in Southern California Conference. I think of one story about a pastor during the pandemic who was trying to adapt to the challenges to be able to worship outdoors. He began to work very diligently with his team to figure out how to set up worship and how to set up the technology and how to set up the streaming, and that was an hours long process. And I remember he told me that he used to come to his church, and sometimes he would sleep in his church on Friday night so that he can wake up at 3 a.m. to have his devotion, to prep for his sermon, and then by 6 a.m. to begin to set up for worship. From 6 o'clock all the way until 9:30 to set up chairs, to set up cables, to set up cameras, to set up seating. Just highly committed pastors and ministry leaders who were working so diligently, and I know that happened in so many different churches. One of the legacies that I hope to leave behind is for pastors and ministry leaders to recapture the passion and the conviction to develop disciples who will actually implement ministry wherever they are. Sometimes we get so focused on doing ministry on Sabbath morning, but being able to do ministry throughout the week, the ministry that happens in between Sabbaths, is certainly something that I'm hoping that our pastors and ministry leaders will embrace fully and be able to disciple the local church, the local leaders, the local members, to be able to fulfill their mission, to identify their unique contribution, not just to the church, but to the community, so that we can become even more indispensable to the communities and be able to develop new disciples in the community as we seek to be faithful to our commission to lift up Christ. If there's ever any way that you find that we can continue to support you in ministry, feel free to reach out. But thank you so much for your commitment, and thank you for your faithfulness to the gospel ministry.